Uh,
Go ahead, of course.
yeah. Hey, so this is the start of the meeting. We've been talking for like 35 minutes and it's been great and I should have recorded the whole time and that's my fault. And Carlos t talked about a lot of great stuff. So, but anyways, so now at least we're recording. Sorry, what were you saying? Go ahead.
Thanks so much. Yeah, my bad as well. Like I also forgot about the recording part. Um, uh, so yeah, what I was gonna say is that as I shared earlier, is that I'm looking for places to find people who can benefit from my personal experience and what I bring to the table. Um, I've joined so far three different groups. One is Gaianet. I actually got in today. Today I got the welcoming, the onboarding email, and the other group is Seeds of Tao, um, with Joshua Prieto. It's the regenerative business economic ecosystem, Region B.
And say the name of it again?
Joshua Prieto, and I'll type it here also. It's the group. It's Seeds of Tao.
Oh, Seeds of Tao. Okay.
Seeds
Yeah.
of Tao. Yes,
Yeah, that
and
that sounds familiar, but I just didn't. Yeah.
yeah, and what has like something has caught my attention, and at some point I was like, what is it? Why why are so many groups so similar between one another? Like it's Seeds of Tao. It's also a community connecting entrepreneurs with professionals, but and GaiaNet is also like a networking space. So I say, like, what is it? What's happening in the ecosystem that there's so many similar things? And I realized that it has to do with values, like the specific ethos of the group that differentiates it, like from GaiaNet and the onboarding experience I've done so far. Like,
Sorry, I just I went to the website while you were talking and then it pulled up a picture of Josh and I was like, "Oh, okay," because I met him in Portugal at the Gathering
oh,
of Tribes.
nice.
I know we met him. It was yeah. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I know. It was awesome to meet him. And we were like, we yeah, I mean, we didn't sort of like get a specific sort of a action step, but like we had these conversations. It's just like, oh yeah, we're like doing the same thing, and you're doing the same thing, and we got to collaborate, and we've got blah blah blah. So it's like it's awesome to sort of have him come back into my sort of sphere.
Yes, of course.
So
Yeah, yeah. And like, I mean, that's exactly my point. Like, like at the beginning, I was like, why, why is it that people are not talking to each other? Like, in the sense that it's an ecosystem, and the things people are building are so similar that they could talk to each other, and like, and at some point, they're like, no, because that is what diversity, like, that is the beauty of the ecosystem. Like, yeah, there's a lot of trees. There are different trees and different species and different reasons and different purposes, what have you. And what I'm like, the feel I'm getting right now is GaiaNet has a really well defined language and onboarding process. Like from what I've seen so far, and I just got the welcoming email today, and I started like poking around some of the initial steps. Like, okay, this looks quite simple in the way that it's like uh, uh, yeah, like um, the HSC is more towards value exchange, and Guyana is more like a network, like a network of people. So that's the main difference. But I believe there are aspects of the onboarding process that it's like powerful and interesting how it works. And then with Seeds of Tao, I feel that group, it's definitely all about uh, a value exchange, but using fiat currency. Like, it's like you. bring your offerings. We connect you with people. You give a discount to the person hiring you. Another percentage of your services go to the platform. Like to support administrative costs and things like that. And that's pretty much it. Like which is not bad at all. It's like I say like it's that's it, but like not in a bad way at all. It's like the value and the purpose is that like we will connect you with people. That's the purpose of the platform, to connect you with other people so that you can exchange products and services offerings using fiat currency, and like everybody
Hmm.
wins in the process. So I feel that's something that came up for me, like the small differences between the communities and the things that are um, yeah, like uh, coming out of the regenerative ecosystem. And I think um, also HSC language is quite clear, but I feel, and I may be wrong, but my feeling is that it's very clear to the people inside the group, but there's still some things we have to figure out to communicate it clearly. I mean, that's what we're working, like it's that's exactly what we're working on. But I
Hmm.
mean, and I feel there's a lot of potential to, yeah, to find the right people. So it's I think I said a lot of things just with the intention to say the message of I feel we're getting really close, and I really like and resonate with the ethos of HSC.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, thank you. That's great. Yeah, it's really helpful to yeah, to hear about like right those three projects where you've landed at, presently. Um,
Mhm.
right. And of course I know all about, GaiaNet and right, like I said, I met, it's good for me to come back and check out Seeds of Tao. Again, it was that gathering, and everything that was very,
Yeah,
frenetic and, so many people. I still feel like I'm catching up on everything. But yeah, great but also just wonderful to hear about, where what you see is their piece. And I think GaiaNet, I mean, has been very working kind of parallel with GaiaNet now for I don't know how long. I mean, at least a year and a half, maybe more. It's
mhm.
been very helpful for me, and I think for them as well. And they've helped me in HSC. Is we've been our paths have been a lot about, among other things, figuring out like what are our core competencies. So you know right, because we have like the big vision, sort of like the big vision, is like, yeah, it's you know pretty much aligned, like
Yeah,
it's almost about basically the same thing. It's just, maybe we just talk about it in different ways. But then it's like, oh, okay, well, what is GaiaNet offering? What is HSC offering? And, from the beginning, we're like, we're doing something that's very, very, seems very similar here. But then as we've gone along, it's been helpful, even to sort of like push off of what they're doing. And we're, and they're talking about like you said, this network, like connecting. Um, being this kind of like, like really large scale, connector, right? And then as we've gone along, hi, Mescal, um, right, HSC, that's helped us to say, oh, well, we're like this like community, and we're like really like, the, we aren't, it isn't so much about like being the network connector, even though that's part of what we're doing, but like the core competency is like this community economy, right? And this value exchange and like, right, actual, sort of activating, all the resources that, that a group or, and a network, has, right? And especially in this, and it's so interesting that you brought in Seeds of Tao and talked about it in the way you did, because that's, I think what HSC, what we're saying is like, we're talking about doing it in a way where a lot of it is non-monetary. It isn't, it's essentially like, how are we creating like alternative economies here? And it does, it doesn't mean that it's cut off from fiat currency, but that's just one piece and one method. And it's also, we're saying like that we're saying that's not required in order to do what we're doing. I mean, maybe,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, some of it is, required, right, in the way of, like practicality, but like that's not the main piece. So it's, yeah, right. And then you brought in this idea. I know, like, that's such a great question. I think that's something we were asking. Um, we're talking about a lot, right? Like with everybody, at the gathering, and right with Joshua there, and which is like, how are we, how are we coming together, and how are we, collaborating and combining, and all of this, and then right, and then just as you said, some of that, the urge to do that, then also shining the light on, on this, the other side, which is like, oh, okay, well, we can't all just like come right together and intermesh, even if we want to, right? Even if we
Yeah.
want, which in a sense we do, but it's like, oh, how do we, it's like we come together and we talk, and it's like, oh, great, well, there's all these sort of ways we could collaborate, but like it doesn't really work most of the time to just be like, oh, okay, well, let's just join right in, because it's, yeah, it's also, what everybody's doing in a sense and creating, is all new and complicated. So, yeah, but that's a big question that I carry with me all the time, right? Which is just like, how much, right? Like how much to continue like developing, this little thing, and then how much to, right, be connecting with other folks, and it's always this question for me of like, is somebody else doing what we're doing, and then how, and if so, like, what is it like, you know, not creating something that's redundant, and utilizing, double the resources. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. That's
yeah,
a great
yeah,
question. I mean, I think eventually, like just as in nature, like eventually, like the mycelium network itself will knock on the door and say, like, hey, like, why don't you guys talk to each other? Like, there's a lot of common ground in here. Like, maybe something could happen. And just like to wrap up what you just shared, with which I agree completely, it's like just using my personal experience and my expectations as like by joining the ecosystem right now. How I see it is like from like just using the example of these three different communities, three different groups. How I see it right now in the journey I'm currently in, it's and GaiaNet will give me access to entrepreneurs that are already there. My goal is to have a 30-minute conversation with as many as I can, 30, 50, and understand what are they struggling with. Like it's like market research. Like I promise I won't sell you anything. I just want to understand what is going on in the ecosystem. Like how can I support you? If I can support you, I just want to understand what's going on. So that would be like my goal is an like true networking space.
yeah, yeah,
Then Seeds of Tao would most likely, and this is just like my intuition, like my gut feeling of how I see things right now. I may be wrong, but that's how I understand it right now. Seeds of Tao could be the most efficient way to solve my financial situation and pay my bills. Like the most straightforward, like transactional with a lot of shared values, of course, but like I see it more as like the transactional space, more into the business as usual, which is perfect. Like I see it, I say it in a really great way. It's something that it's like in my from where I'm standing right now, it's necessary to pay the bills. And the HSC, how I see it, is like the place where I can experiment with alternative economies and alternative value chain systems and methods, and at the same time connect with like-minded people. I get the feeling that HSC will be the place where I will be able to find the most aligned people to connect with, like the bigger part of the tribe. I'm looking forward to build. So
Hmm.
that's how I see all the different groups playing together in my journey so far.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That's great. Um, yeah, I want to say one more thing, and then Mescal, I want to open up the floor to you. Yeah, we've been sort of, dug in on this is kind of a classic, HSC community meeting, um, which is like, you start talking about this stuff, and then it's just gets very rich and juicy. Yeah, that's really great. I mean, I think you're helping me a lot because they're just, to name like, and this was, I think, one of the initial motivations for asking you this first question, anyways, which was like, hey, how are you gonna like you want to just work in the regenerative ecosystem? How are you gonna make money? To catch up Mescal and anybody who's actually watching the recording. Yeah, because I'm having that same question as well, right? Like I'm really at this place where, I mean, obviously I have this project, HSC, which is taking a lot of my time and pays, none of my bills. Um, so, I'm trying to, figure out with the rest of, sort of my time, um, yeah, how I'm, yeah, like what this next step is for me as far as like earning a livelihood. Um, Yeah, right. And I have my offerings and I have, and so then who do I offer? It feels very similar, in a lot of ways to what you're doing because there's a way where if we want to really put it like a very broad label on it, I would say like your offerings for the most part, you could call them consulting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I would say mine are as well. They fit into that mold. There's ways where I could be, kind of in certain ways, right? I could, there's some clients who I just work with, on an ongoing basis. Um, but but they haven't hired me as like staff. So, um,
Mhm.
yeah. And really the final thing to say, right, which is like, I'm, you know, yeah, I'm like, okay, well, if I just sort of try and sell my offerings, in this sort of regenerative space or to, in that same sort of target audience you're talking about, I'm like, is there even enough money, to like there to help me pay my bills?
Yeah.
Um, so these are just questions that I'm sort of asking and yeah. So yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, I think there's lots to talk about there. Yeah, hi, Mescal. Yeah, so to catch you up, we've been, like, yeah, Carlos and I have just been talking about like, um, what he's been, his offerings, like what he's been, creating, really, in this very kind of like core HSC way, talking about like, like Carlos has a plan, is embodying a plan, to try to, have the work that he does align with his values, to have like the meaning, how he makes a livelihood, be in this way of, aligned with his meaning and purpose and what he's trying to do in the world. So it's very cool to talk about that. And then that got us talking about, some of the different projects. And that's where we're at. I had this whole idea of, like there's some operational pieces, um, but we just kind of got into that, and that was very helpful for me. So, Mescal, would you like to check in? Love to just hear where you're at, where you're coming from, how you're landing here
Yeah,
today.
yeah. Well, I am checking in a, in a thoughtful space. I've actually just, I'm working on like rebranding and stuff. And just been in the thick of that. And at the same time, um, Yeah, I've just been trying to be very clear and intentional about what I'm offering. And so I guess when I was thinking about HSC, I think that there is, I think that there's something because I actually just came across the value exchange document as I was just sitting here and listening to you guys. And I just kind of went through it again. And I think that there's a lot of value in, kind of thinking about how the messaging makes that aspect of it more clear. Because for me, the value exchange, it begins to like give dimension to my membership here.
Mm.
Because when I think about, what I will need for like something like my land-based project, like if I knew that like I'm offering my time to anyone in the network if they need, someone to help with administration or something like that, and I can, I can exchange my voucher, in the network for, someone else, who, if I need something like help with the marketing thing and then I can trade that for someone else who specializes, in their marketing thing. Then we're that value exchange. It's tangible, and I get that. I I get that in being, a part and having access to that document, but I think that having like I can't commit to this project right now, but maybe it can go on something when I have a little more capacity and bandwidth. But going those documents and like pulling out those aspects of HSC that really make that really are clear about you know what is this edge that this community has that for all intents and purposes we don't know that anyone else has. It's um it's having that ledger going of we've got we're exchanging this and getting this, um and,
You broke up.
and oh, can you
You
hear me?
Yeah, you froze, but
Yeah.
for like 10 seconds. See, yeah. So,
Okay. Yeah, because I think a lot about like my experience in regenerative spaces, and the fact that like a lot of people who are volunteering their time to like be a part of conversations around the regenerative space, they have the comfort and luxury of some kind of nest egg, to lean on, and some kind of backup source of funds. And a lot of us are out here just, all looking for clients, all looking to do this work so that we can fund some of the more, earth-based projects that we have in mind, So I think that like the difference between those spaces and this space is those spaces are really focused on like, oh, well, what are the things that we can do where we can talk about stuff and help people who are in a position to do stuff like that doesn't require earning money. And we're in a place where we're like, we need to earn money in order to do those projects. So we're not our target audience in the sense that we're not the ones who, we're trying to get to earn money from. We're trying to be there as a source of support for each other. That's what I
yeah.
see this space as. I think that what I would like if we were going to brainstorm where are we going to get like resources to do more of this work and stuff, I would be thinking, so how do like what are we offering to people who um who have the funds and need support with stuff. And where do we find those people? Because even there was one guy who was talking about, investment funds and, oh, I'm just screening projects and seeing who I can pitch to my investors, the people who I know who are investors. And what I found with him is he said yes to everything, even if he had no intentions of ever doing it. And, um, you know, he, um, he the whole situation was, there are lots of people in the regenerative space who have access to, investors, and they kind of act as a gatekeeper so that they can keep those investors interested and not bring us something that ultimately doesn't have the foundation to be successful. So I'm bringing all this up to say that like these are the lessons that I've learned along the way. And for me, in order to see like to see something where we're earning an income from this, we really have to tailor something specific to the people who are looking for it, who are looking for whatever we're offering, or we have to, do everybody put in their little membership fee or whatever. But if we're all struggling to come up with the membership fee, what good is that? you know?
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I think that it's for me, I'm just really focused on how do I deliver value to the people who have the funds to pay in cash. And that way I can do the other work that I'm focused on. Because no matter what, I'm going to do that work. But in order to get more resources in, those people have to know what we're doing and feel. No, you can't have any more. They have to feel like we're offering them something different and specific.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, thank you. Because that's right. I think that's our, like you said, that's for holistic systems cooperative, that's our target audience, right? Is people who are, I'd say, yeah, most people who are saying like, yeah, I need to make a living. I'm a working professional, and yeah, I need to make a living, and I'm not, here just to like, sort of most people, just to kind of connect and hang out or and whatnot, but like, right, providing these resources to say, oh, okay, like, essentially like me or Carlos or you, I think that is the idea, is to say like, all right, well, I need to find clients and I need to make a living. And basically, for I think if HSC is successful, it's saying, oh, like it's easier for me to do that, like, by being involved in HSC than it is for me to just try and like do that on my own. Which I think, sounds like is like a reflection on what you're saying, Miss Gal.
Yeah, yeah. I guess because for me, when I think of HSC, I think of it as a tool and service to us as the professionals. But in
Hmm.
order for us to like have an income coming in to like develop the resources for it, I'm trying to I think that there has to be some thought going into what is that thing that we're offering to it seems like there's like another offering and there's a specific group of working professionals that we're trying to reach that may not necessarily be in the regenerative space. And if they are in the regenerative space, what we would be offering them would have to be something that they, already have value for. Because we obviously have value for each other's services, but what is the value that we're offering to people who are, um, who need support. What support do they need? That's the other
Yeah.
aspect of it. Is it's not like the bigger problem for us is it's like as individuals we would be piecemealing a bigger project. But if we're coming to an individual or a group or an organization, like is it B2B? Is it B2C? And if it is B2C, like what kind of C is that? Like
Yeah.
some of those questions I feel like I don't necessarily have answers for from HSC. And I know that we're trying to figure that out together, but we would have to
Yeah.
be thinking in the direction
Well,
of
I think,
who are those people?
yeah. I mean, I think we have a lot of answers for that. I mean, I don't know if right now there's, a lot of sort of documents floating around, but, like for example, I don't know if you can see my, my screen, but like,
I do,
you know, th
yeah.
yeah, like this is an example, there's been a lot of thought around like who is our audience, and then like what are
Yeah.
practically what we're offering. And so
Mm-hmm.
this piece right here, is basically, kind of speaking directly to that, which is like, what are the benefits? What is the value? of
Mhm.
participating in this community, like very specific to like you, the person, which is
Mhm.
B2C.
For sure. And I
So
see this. I'm experiencing all of this for sure.
yeah, is that the kind of thing that you're talking about?
Um, it is, but I'm more thinking about like I guess what would be the resources to to develop this work? Like what if HSC had a magic wand, you know, and could make anything appear, what would that thing be that would allow the 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 space um to have more to give the community?
Oh, I
Because
see.
even in in the other spaces that I've been in the regenerative space, it's like they're all talking about, oh, we're trying to resource projects. And it's like, that's cool. But what does that mean? Like, you have all of this stuff about, resourcing. I'm not saying this is you, this is literally other communities that I've seen. And this idea of like building a network. Um, and the difference I see is like this is a network of professionals, and that's just like a network of projects and stuff like that. But when we're talking about resourcing, I only know like there's like 1% that has 90% of the world's money, and then there's some other people who have like other pieces of money. But when we're talking about resources, the only thing that we can trade besides raw resources is the fiat currency. So how do we get the resources that will allow us to do this work, um, of offering this space? And if we're just offering the space out of the generosity of our heart, like then we would have like it's what you're doing basically is like we need people to take on projects and roles and stuff, and just doing that development and having that be the focus. That's kind of the two, unless we have two teams working on two different branches. The focus would have to be either on developing resources to develop the space, or on developing the space for the people who are involved. And
Right.
I'm not saying that we're not doing that. I'm just thinking out loud about the fact that I see those as two emerging offshoots, um, in this conversation, because other conversations make other things clear and all that. But
Hmm.
I'm done
Yeah.
talking. Thanks. Thanks for coming to my
Yeah.
TED
Yeah.
Talk.
Um, I don't know if I said it. I'm just taking notes. If I said it exactly as you did, but there's like, yeah, but I think I'm starting to understand what you're talking about now. Right, developing, like the resources to develop the project. I mean, because you're right. If you were to give me that magic wand, I'd be like, give us, $100,000, right? Like, I don't know that there's, I think the easiest way is if we wanted to say, hey, how are we, going to, build this project? Like, yeah, financial resources. We get $100,000, then that allows people like the three of us to then receive, some income in order to do what we're doing anyways. Developing the space for the community. Yeah, I'm just reading what you put in the chat. Resources to develop the project versus developing the space for the community to exchange vouchers for work. Right. When I put down in my, like these two things, I put develop the resources to develop the project or the space, which is what you're talking about. And then the second one is like, to me, it's developing the space to bring in the resources. Um, so I would say, Mescal, that yeah, thumbs up, thank you. I would say that the basic idea, of the the strategy for there's you can call those two different strategies. I think that they both work. I'd love to just like be able to have, time to try and bring in like financial resources. But that hasn't been the main strategy. The main strategy has been to develop the space the second one, develop the space. And the idea of HSC is that when the space is developed up to a certain point, that then resources will start to flow in. And the idea is that we're saying, like, if we don't have financial resources, then we're just going to develop this with our other resources. The first, the primary one being time, right? So that's what we're doing here, which is time of people's work, or you know person hours, or whatnot. So yeah, I think that's the sort of the kind of meant to be the magic sauce, with HSC, is that, yeah, we bring whatever resources we have, and what we're creating will then be in and of itself a resource generator.
So clear. I get it.
Yeah. And so cool. Yeah, thank you. This really great framework to look at it in. So Mescal, does that feel like something that wants to be offered, or needs to be relayed to people that that would seem important?
My question to you would be, do you feel like it's not already relayed?
Uh, no, I
Because
mean,
I mean, you're pretty clear.
yeah, I
You
mean,
answered the question without any struggle. So,
yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel very, very clear about it. Right. I guess that's just the question of, and that's really where we're at right now. Very, as this primary, project that we're all in, is how we're relaying this to people. Um, the actual
hmm,
content. So
for sure.
yeah, um, yeah. It's also a question for for you all. I mean, I think I'm gonna, it might be a segue to actually, like, talk about, um, the content and what's here, because that was, if we wanted to do some operational stuff, that was like one of two. Um, and in some way it feels like we already jumped into it. Do you,
Sarah. Oh, sorry.
yeah. Because I guess, what the answer to that is, like, that's what we're trying to go over now, is like making sure that we are relaying, like, what's important to people. Um, and that it's getting across. So I don't know, what do you two think? Do you want to take a look at some of that, and jump into, like, this content, or are there other kind of pieces that you want to just share, bring in?
I mean, for me, it's like, whoa, such a rich conversation. Yeah, I mean, for me,
I mean,
what
I can
really,
check out some content. Oh, go ahead. Mhm.
thank you.
Go ahead,
No,
Carlos.
thank you, Mescal. Yeah, something that really caught my attention was how you mentioned that there are some gatekeepers in the investment space, like make like if I understood correctly, it's kind of like a bottleneck of capital flow towards projects. Is that what you said?
Hmm.
I would say that's what I'm experiencing. Yeah. Like
Okay.
anybody who has resources, it doesn't seem like they are pushing them out as much as they seem to say that they are.
Okay. That is so interesting. I mean, from how I see, that is not regenerative. Like the mindset, at least, like it feels, like um yeah, like counterintuitive, or I don't know the rationale behind that um way of um navigating that. But yeah, I mean, something what came up for me is I see two different types of work. One within the community, which is like the building the platform and getting launching the alpha group and getting more people, and the other is what I believe is you're referring to, Ms. Gali, is like how can we enable interactions to happen so that resources start to flow between members. And I think that, and I mean this is my like I'll try to make sense, but how I see this, and like just as a super quick context, I used to work in a venture fund uh, 5 years ago, and something that really caught my attention was 90 out of 100 companies would fail. I was like, for me, it was like, how is this possible? Like, they are doing the same things, like same framework, same activity, same KPIs. Like they are doing the same. Like why some fail and why some don't? And in most cases, like specifically in the community or in the uh, yeah social space, it's like how I see it is achieving network effect as early as possible was a huge uh, part of the success. Like with Uber and Facebook and like WhatsApp, network effect for me was the key differentiator. And also, I believe that to an extent that is a mix between like preparation, timing, and luck. Like you can do as much, but and then just like just hope for the best. Like but I believe that to summarize my point is I hope and I believe that since we are in a regenerative space, like the essence of regeneration is that eventually this flow will start to grow because we're giving more to the ecosystem that we're taking. So it's just a matter of patience. And if the concept is correctly applied, I think over time it will work out for everyone involved. But yeah, I mean, in practicality, I believe the key will be to convey the message as clear as possible and find the right people. And yeah, that's what I want to share.
Mm, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. It feels a little, similar to what Mescal just put in the chat. She said, forgot the second part, which was how do we enable members to engage in a way that adds value? And then you're saying,
Exactly.
like this
That was
sort of
what
like,
Carlos, that's what I heard from Carlos, but I was trying to capture it. I don't
yeah,
remember what exactly he said, but I was trying to capture it.
Yeah,
yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's beautiful, right? I think you both are kind of saying that the same thing and what we're talking about, right? Which is the strategy, and that's yeah, which essentially is the strategy. We're saying, hey, well, we're gonna, create this group. Yeah, in these, that is a way you could say it in these regenerative, design principles. So that way, right? And basically saying, like what are all the different resources, and we create this, this container and this platform then for right for everybody to be able to add value. Yeah, to that pool.
Mm.
Right. And Will, Will Ruddick is, I know I've got to get some of his, you know, he's been writing a lot, of these blog articles, um, about, about commitment pooling and about the whole, and so he's always bringing in, different ways of visualizing it, and one of them was talking about like a garden, and like it's good. Like we're all starting this like community garden, and we're planting seeds, and everybody. So and then we plant seeds, people are coming in now, we're doing the toiling or whatever, and then resources, right? Resources start to grow from there, and then we say, and then whatever everybody's bringing in, whatever we're harvesting, we say now then where are we flowing all those resources? And how are we managing the garden? How are we making sure that right, that's what was coming up. Was having a little just chat with Will and Discord, and it's sort of like, then how do we make sure that one person's not like grabbing all the vegetables that are growing, and then taking them, so like yeah, so it's like how could there's that's part of this like curation aspect as well, which is like, okay, we're building up these resources, and then you know let's in sort of a regenerative way make sure that we're not then like depleting, we're not what's that the system isn't becoming degenerative or extractive in a way that's yeah that degenerates it. Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, happens in nature. I expect it will happen eventually. It's fine. It's the way it is.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's not right. It's just like how do we work with that, right? So it isn't that it's bad, it's like yeah, I might want to you know, grab a ton of vegetables at some point and run away with them, It's like, okay, well, that doesn't have to be wrong, but how can the community sort of say like, okay, these are like our commons, right? How are we managing the commons? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, beautiful. I'm gonna use the restroom real quick. So I think there's a lot there. So you all can just carry on the meeting. I'm gonna be quick, but I'll be right back. Unless
Sure.
we want to take 5 minutes and if people need a bio break or anything.
Oh, I could take a 5 minute. Yeah, I could take a 5 minute break.
Okay. Yeah, let's do a 5 minute break. I see a thumbs up from
Let's
Mescal.
go.
All right. It's
Exactly.
unanimous.
Cool.
Consensus.
Awesome.
I know. Exactly what came in. I'm like, I'll be back. Yeah, I know. Couldn't even say that phrase without talking like Arnold.
Exactly.
I'll be back. Um, all right, great. Good break. So do you want to look at these couple of things? We don't have to even go, too deep into them, but I think there's two pieces that um, came in that from the meeting yesterday that seem, very relevant to what some of the work you might want to be doing.
Yeah, of course. We could jump right in.
Okay.
Sounds like a great plan.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do that. I'm glad we had that conversation. I
Yeah, it
wish I
was like a lot of things to unpack and integrate from that chat. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Me too. Me too. I know, but that's how, like those are the things, like a lot of these community meetings over the, last couple of years, these are the things that are these have these conversations, right? And they spurred me on, even more, than just, my own sort of self-motivation. I'm like, have these conversations. I'm like, yeah, we got to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
We got to do it. So, all right, well, let's jump in because I'll just pause the recording.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, please go. Yeah, ask away.
So yeah, like to use the essentialist approach, I really like it like to apply it in places where things can get out of control really quickly. So the first question would be, what do we want to get out of this uh, mirror board? Like
Hmm.
like is it the wireframing? Is it the like what is it we want to get out of the of this task? And the second the follow-up question would be, in my opinion, how will we know when we're done? Like, how does done look like? Like, is it like, I don't know, it's not my area of expertise, like these developing aspect, but like how do we know we're there? You know, what is a good enough for now place to finish? And
Yeah.
then I would probably, from how I seen it, and like you mentioned that flow chart option, like we could have spaces dedicated for like a sandbox in Miro, in Miroboard,
Hmm.
like a sandbox. Like let's take each one of us a different persona, the one we feel more comfortable with, or the one we feel we can add more value to, or whatever, and let's create sandboxes where we can just throw everything there. Like, and maybe we can then like collaborate and like look at each other's sandboxes and see what we can like fine tune. And maybe you that are the one that has like a better idea of the developer aspect of the project, you can say like, okay, this is interesting, this I can use here, and use all the sandboxes to achieve the like the essential intent of the task, you know, like the what are we trying to do here. I don't know if that was clear enough, or a good
Hmm.
starting point for now.
Um, yeah, I'm making notes.
For sure.
Yeah, interesting. Um, hmm. So so you're saying like each person who wants to be involved, rather than trying to have a like create a sort of like have the group sandbox right away, you're saying like this approach could be to have everybody sort of have their own, sandbox of, with the idea of like understanding, those first two questions, having, answers for those first two questions, and then everybody has their own kind of sandbox, and then we're looking at each other's, and then we, at a certain point we say, okay, now what, how are we kind of coalescing these in a way that is meeting
Ye-
our essential
Yeah,
objective.
exactly. I would say the first step would be to ask, what do we need out of this task or this mirror board? And like could be like, for example, like we need, what do we need from each persona? Like we need the values, we need what are they looking for, like what are the building blocks of the persona, and then giving freedom if someone feels more comfortable doing it as a flow chart or using a template or writing it down as text, you know, like whatever feels easier for the person owning that
Mm,
persona, that could be. And then we can like, I see it as a like a divergence
yeah.
um, space with pretty clear boundaries. And then at some point we say, okay, let's now converge to the goal of the project, and like let's summarize and synthesize this information, and get the yeah, like uh, fill the blanks for the goal of the project, which is probably the wireframing or the screens of the platform functionality.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. That actually feels very, feels like spacious and sort of, kind of easeful to me.
Nice.
To, at first to just let everybody sort of like do their thing, rather
Mhm.
than, try and have everybody be on one thing, be like, oh, I don't like what this person's doing, and and this person just bumped into my thing and got in the way, and right. Yeah, but with a clear goal. Hmm.
Exactly. Yeah, like exactly, like you can do it however you want. We, well, every one of us need to answer like these questions, like what are the values, what am I looking for, like to have a lot of freedom within the boundaries of what we're looking to answer in the task. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. It could be, right, could be fun, right? Because we can, and everybody's, we don't have to like, I don't have, every person doesn't have to go and like find their own templates. Like we can, be like, oh, I like Carlos's template for this, or the way he has this set up. Great. I'm stealing that and I'm bringing that down into my area. And then, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um, right. It makes it easier. And I don't have to be responsible for like the whole thing or to figure it all out, right? Just like whatever comes through for me.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I like that. So I think, right, that, then the first thing would be to, right, to answer those two and agree upon as a group, right, to answer those two questions. What do we
Exactly.
want?
Yeah.
What do we want to get out of this task or this process? Because I think the user persona is just like the first place to start, but there's something bigger that we're trying to get out of here, which is, uh,
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly how I see it. Like the bigger question would be, why are we doing this? What do we want to get out of it? Like, like how will we know when we're done? And then the next step for me would be like defining the user personas, three, four personas, and then just creating the sandbox and having fun.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I like that a lot. I like
Cool.
it a lot. Yeah, because it's a way of like a control. In a sense, it will like, from one sense, it will get out of control, but it's sort of designed to do that, So it's not actually out of, right.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
A little bit
yeah,
of
yeah,
chaos, but within the boundaries.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
And we can have a constraint, a time constraint, like let's call a cutoff date, like let's give it 4 days. And like owning that the persona that you're responsible for, like gonna like needs to be ready in 4 days, so that will give enough time to explore and play, and but also have everything ready at some time, so that like we can either as a group start connecting the dots, or you can jump in and say like, okay, let me look at the what's here and start making sense of the information.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Hmm. Yeah, and if you don't mind, like I'm gonna try and because I think that like the first question, seems very valuable and is like the most important one. Maybe I'll just take a couple of minutes here and kind of try and answer that or
Of
start to,
course.
because I mean, there's this way where I'm thinking like to me that, well, like the starting place from this is like how to get everybody's, how to get a collective, voice or even just like, collective creation or development, um, into what we're creating here. Or at the very least, like, feedback from people.
Mhm.
Um, and then, the other idea, right, is that it's not like is that the app is, connected. The app is sort of like connected with the the group um interplay, the group, like all this we've been talking about, the group, sort of the connections, how people are, the culture, the community. Um, it's in service. Yeah, that
Mhm.
might be a good way, right? The app is in service to us and what we're, trying to accomplish. So it's the at its base, it's still, I think, the method for the it's a the method for like this community economy, to make it tangible and functionable.
Mhm.
Um, but it's more than that. So maybe, as I sort of say all of that, like maybe the point of this process is to get is to make sure like that the app and the platform is designed and developed to meet the objectives of the community itself and the specific users in it.
Yes, that's amazing.
Hmm.
I mean, I really like what you said earlier about sorry, the platform being I also see it like the technological enabler of interaction and connection. Like interaction meaning value exchange and connection between us. Like
Hmm.
it's I really like that idea of yeah, it's the piece of technology that allows um, all this to happen in the same place in an like uh, orderly way. Yeah, I mean I think that the question I have right now, and probably the same exercise in the mirror board will answer this question is, let's say from the four personas, each persona has needs and uh, features that will be needed in the platform. But probably, or I'm just thinking out loud because it's not my area of expertise, but is it viable or easy to build like the first part of the platform and like leaving the foundations ready for the next part to be built on as soon as the like in so speaking like the first stage will be maybe the features that all the personas share if there is something that is shared across all personas like that would be like for me the priority number one like having these features ready and then maybe some features are for two personas or three or for one but it's super important and then like my question would be, is it possible or easy to have something ready but not built? And then just when the time comes, just develop that part of the platform and like a second like as a roadmap kind of way.
Yeah, say that last sentence again.
Like
Sentence
like
in
yeah, like to have like a platform roadmap. Like this
oh
is the
yeah.
like the first delivery. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I think that's right. That is part of kind of this process as well, is saying what is the like, how, maybe that's more of like how will we know when it's done when we have an actual freaking roadmap. I'm gonna make it.
Cool.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's a big part of it, right? Like what are the phases, of building, right? And what is the roadmap? What is the timeline? Again, all of this is, I think, is in service. Yeah, it's in service, right? I think it's in service of making sure, right, that the app is right, that the app is created in service to the community. And then, like kind of the sub level of that is like making sure that, that it's then, or to do that, right? Like the idea is to create it as the community.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, yeah, like at some level, I think I'm not sure, but like my perception is that some features will probably only become evident once the community is up and running. Like this is super needed. Like okay, like we thought this was like like the fifth stage, but it turns out to be the second one. Like this is needed like right now. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, like having the first part, yeah. the most important things ready. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah, we need a right. Yeah, like the roadmap. And yeah. And right, this is yeah. So it's a process, right? It is this I guess that's what we're creating is this group process. 'Cause again, I mean, I keep, I think it's a good frame of reference to keep saying this, but like I can just like decide all these things,
Of course.
like I can like go and start to build the app and make these decisions, right? Like as a person, one builder, right? I can, be holding these things and making these decisions, say, okay, well, these are, the phases and this is what like the timeline I'm gonna, give me and I'll just build it out and then you guys, you come in and then we'll use it, right? There's certain there is value to that model. Um,
Mhm.
but there is a way where I don't know that that's what we're trying to create anyways.
Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, totally. I understand that part. I mean, I'm not sure if this could be kind of a space where we could use a little bit of the holacracy approach. Like you are the leader of this, like you own this circle, you will decide. And of course, like you ask the opinion of everyone, but in the end, it's on, like you are the one that will take the project and make it happen. So like as long as you take everyone's opinions, but not necessarily consensus, like I don't know if that could be a good place to move things faster and like have everyone's opinion and but yeah, I mean probably could work.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're kind of doing a very lean combination of those right
Yeah.
now. And we talked about that last night, which was we're talking about like, roles and circles and bringing in sociocracy and all of that, which we really like I really, I want to do. I mean, I think that's, that like wants that needs to happen. That's a part of it, And so and I
Hmm.
so so we're talking about that in this way of like, well, maybe we should start doing that. We should start working, in a tool that, has these roles and, start, doing things in this really in this sociocracy manner. And so there's the desire that's there, and I think what came through was like, that is a whole process itself, and that takes a lot of time and resources. So
Absolutely.
so what's most important now? The answer we kind of came up with was what's most important now is really coming up with this like MVP version, so and we're thinking about it now in this way of like the MVP version of the app and the MVP version of the member experience,
Mhm.
because that's what we're creating, right? It isn't just the app, it's like the service, right? So there's these MVP version, right? So like this info packet, we're saying, oh, an MVP version of holistic systems, needs an info packet, and it needs, right, like some member agreements, and it needs like, oh, some emails to people, and it needs some, like people to guide people through, right? So in addition to just like the app and the features. So I think that's where we got to. And so now we're trying to sort of figure out how to, right, like how to, right. And then this whole app creation process, right, is a whole thing, So it's like, okay, well, how do we implement that, make sure we're, having people's voices heard. And so I think it is we're just keeping it like very lean, and we're saying
Yeah.
we're just going to make decisions at a certain point, right? And I'm going to make sure that like, we don't get too bogged down, you know, and at a certain point I need to just like, build things and whatever, then I'll do that. So, but yeah, so yeah,
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, makes sense to me.
because there's a way where I mean, like it takes the time it takes, but at the same time, right? I think we're all in agreement. There is a way where, like with HSC, that like having like having like that MVP version of the platform in a way for people to join in and curate it and all of that, right, is what's going to kind of take us to the next level. Is to say, oh yeah, this is the thing we
Totally.
have, this is what we're building, and here it is, and people can jump in.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah, I mean it's yeah, for sure. It's the next stepping stone, like being able to say welcome to someone and having like a place to join and like member experience to yeah, like match the process. Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, that will
Yeah,
take us to the next level.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because right, like you say, it's an experiment. It's a group experiment, and it's I think, once we really start to once we were able to, be able to really do this the experimenting, then it's gonna open up a lot. Yeah. Great. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's really helpful. I think it's a great idea. Um, so I think sort of moving forward, um, all right, well, so my question for you is, how would you feel about like, um, bringing that, essentially like what we kind of talked about here for how to approach this, like just kind of generally writing that up and bringing it to the group like as a proposal. Um,
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
yeah,
How let me think my question. Um, where would be the right place to present this information to the group?
yeah. I mean, I guess if I was gonna do it, I'd probably. I mean, is everybody in Austin? I think I'd probably like. I might make a document.
Hmm.
You
Okay,
know,
yeah.
again, this is me doing it. I'm gonna say I would probably make a document, and I would, just be like, you know, call it the, like the whatever, app, app development, plan or something like that, right?
Hmm.
Um, and and then I'd probably just write out what we, talked about, which is like, oh, okay, proposing to do it this way, you know, whatever, proposing to do it this way, have this, sort of sandbox idea, um, in service of answering, these two questions, um, and then kind of maybe put the first, like what we talked about here today, as far as like the first sort of offer, options of what those answers might be.
Hmm.
Um, and then I would probably you know, I'd probably email it to everybody, and maybe yeah, I'd probably email it to everybody and then maybe drop like create a task in Asana,
Okay,
and
yeah.
then
Like when you
yeah,
say email everybody, um,
right.
who should I
So
be?
so who are these people, right? Who is everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, it changes. I'll make the kind of list now here. I'm actually gonna stop the recording because I think now we're just getting into like, nitty-gritty stuff. So thanks everyone. Whoosh.